been FEC filings for the great Senator Nina Turner to run as a replacement for Representative Marcia Fudge, who currently represents Ohio's 11th district. It's one of the few Democratic stronghold districts in the state of Ohio, which, as we all know from the election, has moved remarkably red over the past, 8 years specifically, because Obama did carry the whole state both times, but Trump also carried it both times. And anyway, this district's gerrymandered as fuck. Just as an aside, it essentially encompasses it's like Cincinnati all the way to like Akron, and it's one of those like weird districts. So anyway, it's a great place for a Democrat to run because it's one of the few places left in Ohio that the Democrats have gerrymandered in their favor. So just from obviously gerrymandering is wrong, but in this case it would behoove the Democrats and whoever the Democratic candidate is.
And this kind of came as a surprise to me. I mean, it definitely isn't surprising necessarily that Representative Marcia Fudge was nominated to be the HUD secretary, but I guess just a day or two ago was the first kind of time I heard the rumblings of if Marcia Fudge is chosen, then that would open up the door for Nina Turner to run for this spot. And I hadn't really even considered that. We've been talking on this podcast about Nina Turner potentially running for governor of Ohio, or other ways like that, where she could kind of boost her national profile, maybe in anticipation of a 2024 presidential run or, presidential ambitions at some point later down her career. This, however, I think is honestly an even better, opportunity for Nina Turner than the governor race or really anything else, because it gives her, at least one term in Congress where if she wins her race to really raise her profile, potentially two, before then she could run for president if that's what she so desires. Or if not, she would just be literally the super squad member, like the ultimate squad member, throwing bombs, absolutely calling out who needs to be called out, making it apparent to the American people when her fellow Congress members are not doing their job, or when they're not holding up, or when they're holding up a vote that needs to be voted on, stuff like that. I think she'll be like the squad times 10, just as far as her presence, her, unequivocating nature, her ability to call out, lies when she sees them or injustices where she sees them. So, I think that this is definitely the right thing to do for Nina Turner. And again, regardless of if it's, kind of to lay the ground for a presidential run or not, I just think it'd be a, great thing for the movement to have this voice in a more elevated national role.
Yeah, and I think that we should handle this in two parts, right? Like, let's handle this in a vacuum, right? So let's assume that, her only plan and her only, mindset, which I imagine is what she'll publicly say for a long time, that, she's only focused on running for this House seat, that she's, not like counting, obviously, you don't want to count your chickens before they hatch, right? But, as people, who are thinking strategically long-term, obviously that's a conversation. But setting that aside right now, I think you're 100% correct that this is exactly what this is another spark that the movement needs right now. It needs something. The left has been fucking beat to shit, man. There's been one L after another, and we're gonna get to all of them on this show. But we like to eat our dessert first here at the Vanguard, so we wanted to start with something pleasant, And I think that this is exactly what we needed. We talked about it just the other day on a live stream, kind of how the Bernie Sanders, sort of became the entire movement on the left in this country, almost like he was the single anchor to all of it. And after he dropped out of the presidential race, it felt like a lot of it dissipated, like a lot of like the string that was holding everything together, kind of got snipped, right? And then there was a bunch of, infighting, and that's typically what happens, right, when there's a new progressive push, right? It's if it doesn't go great the first time, fractions start coming out, so you have the Greens, the DSA, all these people that, we've talked about need to unify, obviously, but it's easy to form fractions when you don't have that one candidate that was joining everybody together. And on a smaller scale in the state of Ohio, I think that's exactly what, Nina Turner is going to represent, right? She has the experience, obviously, as a state senator in Ohio. The people there are familiar with her. She obviously has a tremendous amount of national backing, a high profile. She's a fearless leader. And like you said, she's not going to be afraid to go to the mattresses with these fucks in Congress, right? I mean, she's a lady that is going to be fearless. She's going to say what the fuck she thinks. She's going to bravely face all of the ridiculous smears that are going to come her way. for the good of the people because she cares. And I am just so excited. I think that this is a race that she can absolutely win. I think that seeing Congressperson Nina Turner is something that the left desperately needs as an injection and as a way of energizing the movement, and giving us an example of, okay, this is how we can move forward, at least in some capacity.
Yeah, 100%. What's your opinion on whether or not the nature of this run? Do you think she's eyeing the 2024 presidential ticket on the Democratic Party, or do you think she's really just interested in getting into Congress? I mean, she said on the Young Turks not long ago that she was eyeing the 2024 presidential nomination. So, I mean, I think that you have to figure that into the calculus a little bit here, and I think she clearly is aware of that on the horizon, obviously, and trying to play her cards in the correct way. Again, I think that this is the right move because as governor, I always think it looks kind of weird, or it's a bad look when a governor of a state that's midway through their term decides, fuck it, I'm going to run for president, or even a mayor of a city, especially during these times when the people in those positions are so vitally important for helping their communities. So I think if you're representing the district in Congress rather than literally serving the state as its governor, I think it's a little bit less of a bad look to kind of step away from your job to run for president. It doesn't totally just look like a vanity project, like a la Pete Buttigieg, finishing out his last couple years as mayor, and he decides to run
a small town. Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. And I think that you're I don't want to think, I'm not like Nina Turner's playing chess, not checkers, guys. Like, of course, I think she's thinking like 13 steps down the line. That's the kind of person that she is. She's obviously, an insightful leader and, somebody who is, thinking strategically. But I just meant as far as what she'll, publicly say and comment on, I imagine that she'll continue to put out this thing, or the statement saying, I'm a public servant, which she absolutely is. And, I will go where the people, want me to be. And I think that she just saw that this was an opportunity for her to represent the people of Ohio, the people that, she cares about, and to represent progressivism in the Midwest. And I don't think this is something that should be overlooked here, guys. We're talking about if Nina Turner gets elected to Congress, we're going to have two of the two most progressive individuals in Congress are going to be Black women elected in the Midwest of the United States in what are red states in the election. So let's just sit on that for a moment and talk about how that might interrupt some of the talking points that are peddled 365 days a year on MSNBC, CNN, where, of course, it's impossible for somebody like that to win there. You can't win on this message here, whatever. So I think if nothing else, and I do believe it will be much more, and I am in full support of Nina Turner, setting herself up for a 2024 presidential run, because I think she's absolutely the most trustworthy, outspoken, confident, articulate messenger of the progressive message that we have right now to do this and to run. I think that obviously Bernie Sanders is too old to run again, and also I'm just a little bit done and ready for us to move on from that personally. And I think that nobody represents all of the best elements of this movement than Nina Turner.
And also, it's been talked a lot about how the Democrats are probably going to try to force Kamala Harris on us in 2024, and how they're probably going to try to just coronate Harris, kind of like they attempted to with Hillary Clinton in 2016 as their party nominee, without really allowing room for an actual intra-party fight, an actual competition to take place, an actual nominating process. And we've talked about various other people that might have their eye on that too. Andrew Cuomo, Andrew Yang, who we'll get into later too. But I just think from a completely kind of, I guess, cynical identity politics perspective too, that Nina Turner is absolutely the right candidate for the left to embrace for that reason. If she's going to be going up against Kamala Harris, running some white dude isn't going to be as viable, in my opinion. And especially when Nina Turner is someone who isn't afraid to, speak like she's from the working class, isn't afraid to speak like a working class Black woman. Kamala Harris is the Democratic Party's Yas Queen figure, but she still kind of conducts herself and talks and acts like she comes from privilege, like she comes from kind of a white, working upper middle class background. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Nina Turner kind of is just the people's champion, undeniably. She, speaks like a fucking preacher in a church. Like she's rousing and passionate. She connects with the working person. She isn't afraid to sit down at a diner and talk to voters, stuff like that. She comes across as a real person, and I just think that quality can't be understated. I mean, it's why Kamala did so poorly in the primary. Is her she couldn't connect with anyone. She came off as fake. She came off as scripted. The only good moments of her entire campaign were
honestly, Kamala has a very like Hillary Clinton kind of presence to me, almost like a very calculated, politically, like you said, scripted, kind of a personality. And I think that, obviously that set her back. Whereas, Nina Turner, I don't know exactly, what faith Nina Turner is, but you can definitely tell that her, religion and her faith, feeds into her politics. But I think you're 100% right that it also feeds into her, oration and, making her an engaging and thrilling speaker. And I think that that's something that the left needs to really consider as important, right? You said like there's going to be swaths of people in the Midwest, working class people of all backgrounds, shades, colors, belief systems, another big belief amongst working class people of all shades is that the liberals hate people of faith, right? And one thing that we never talk about on the left, and Gavin and I are two secular guys, we've been atheists since, we could form our own opinions. But the one thing that the left has to be careful about is that we can't be the fucking party of, intellectual elitist atheists, the I'm an atheist, fight me party, that's so 2008 and that's Sam Harris's lane and that's a different club now. So I think that moving forward, leaning into some of that, theological rhetoric and also that powerful delivery of prose, right? I mean, we look at all of the great leftist leaders, Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West comes to mind as somebody who delivers and is very from that, that theological background and, all the way back to, MLK or even before MLK, William Jennings Bryan, a populist preacher from the 1890s from Nebraska, not far from, heart of America kind of stuff. This is something that resonates with people in the heartland and it's not inherently bad. We talked to Erica, the white trash socialist, about this the other day. A lot of the values that people get instilled with in Midwest are the kind, and even Frank Schaeffer mentioned this. The values that brought him to being a lifelong Democrat and to undo all the work of his father was the teaching of his parents from the Bible, that the egalitarian message, the helping your neighbors, the not coveting, other people's belongings, but sharing and, opening your doors to others, all of these other things. So I think it would be remiss for all of us on the left to turn our noses up at something so powerful and also something that's so deeply personal to these people when it could be used as a gateway of bringing people in. And I think somebody like Nina Turner would do an excellent job of doing something just like that in a state like Ohio.
100%. And like to those who think that maybe Nina Turner's too radical or, she's too much of an outspoken black woman to win in a place like this. Like we do have to remember that Barack Hussein Obama did win twice and then 10% of his voters turned around and voted for Trump. So at least 10% of that, base can be won back over. And I think that someone like Nina Turner is absolutely the right kind of person to make that working class case to people that maybe have drifted away from the Democratic Party, maybe have bought into some of the propaganda about how the Republican Party is more working class or more of the working people. And someone like Nina Turner, again, those people that voted for Barack Obama,
or people who never voted
definitely reach back out to those people. Or people that never voted at all. Yeah, because unlike Obama, even at his peak, Nina Turner is actually, in favor of and signed on to concrete, solid solutions that represent the answers to the problems.
Cash stimulus. She's going to support a Green New Deal in Congress, Medicare for all. She's going to support things like free college, eliminating student debt. Defunding the police. I think that, I don't know to what capacity she's commented on, her position on defunding the police, because she obviously hasn't been in elected office, and the George Floyd happened after Bernie Sanders. So I'm not sure. But you start to, you imagine that, okay, if you get elected into office, you're going to vote to, get everybody out of jail who was there for nonviolent offenses. You're going to, vote to give everybody stimulus money, cancel debt, both consumer debt and college debt, things like that were all things that were floated by the Bernie Sanders administration. And I imagine that on Nina Turner's own, she's maybe even going to be particularly to the left of Bernie Sanders on some issues, or at least what Bernie Sanders felt like vocalizing in a presidential run if she's running for Congress. I think she's going to have no problem going on CNN, going on MSNBC, as long as they'll put a camera in front of her. And if she gets into Congress, they won't have a fucking choice. Yeah. And going on there and saying, Nancy Pelosi, this is not good enough. This is a disgrace. Yeah. These people need better. You are in the way of this. She's going to be Ro Khanna times infinity.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Cenk Uygur actually was running for Congress. That was basically what he said he would do. He was like, I want to be the squad's like enforcer. I want to be in there, but I want to be like on cable news, not just making the right votes, but actually calling out those that need to be called out and, wagging my finger, making the loud speech on the Senate floor. And obviously that didn't come out to fruition whatsoever. There's a miserable failure of a campaign. But Nina Turner,
what's her face also lost? Christie, the corporate back.
Christy Smith. Yeah. She also lost. But Nina Turner would actually be the squad enforcer. She would get in there and she would be so unequivocal. She would be so unafraid and so unsilenceable, going on cable news and on the Senate floor or the House floor, making the bold case for these policies in the way that can't be denied, in a way that can't be just brushed off or ignored. She really speaks to a moral authority on the left, honestly. When she talks about these issues, you almost have to just sit down and shut up and cede, the power to her, because she clearly is the one that has, like I said, the moral authority. She's so good at channeling that energy. And I think that it just can't be understated. Like, I feel like, even AOC, she's great on Twitter, but I still have yet to really see her just, blister the Democratic leadership on the floor of Congress or in Washington in a way that I think Nina Turner would be much more naturally suited to do. I mean, obviously, she already played that role to some extent, and the Bernie campaign of kind of being the attack dog, character, going out and not being unafraid to just go out, call out who needs to be called out, be unequivocal. And I just think that is so often minimized on the left. It's so often ignored as the value of such a strategy. And I think that Nina Turner just really does embody that. And I mean, she was the best part of she was always the best Bernie surrogate in 2016 and 2020, in my opinion. She made the case like no one else. She always rallied up the crowd like no one else. She handles the heat great. She's great on cable news too, because again, regardless of how radical her policies are, she doesn't come off super, radical. She comes off like someone who's interested in improving the conditions of working people of her own community. She comes off as a champion of the people, a fighter for the people. And, voters like that energy, regardless of, whether or not she's on their side or not. Policy, when it comes to the nitty gritty, people simply respond on a very natural kind of, primal level to that leadership. And I mean, similarly with Obama, we've talked about how he had that, thing, that, that quality about him.
Je ne sais quoi.
Exactly. And I think that Nina Turner, has that, and maybe even more. I mean, I think she could. I don't know who she would lose to in a debate. Certainly, none of these Republican clowns. And I certainly can't imagine someone like Kamala Harris, who again only ever delivers, good lines when they're scripted and rehearsed. I can't see her being able to, and again, we keep talking about this as if it's just laying the groundwork for a 2024 run. I don't want to, discuss it like that. Regardless of that, if she gets into Congress, great thing for the movement. I think it's super exciting. This is a great day. Just something that's super, an injection of kind of opium into the progressive movement, which is so just weakened right now.
Yeah. Or maybe amphetamine is better than opium, because I'd rather everybody not pass out. But